Guys, we're going racing and I'm taking the Cummins Cart and it's making 1,800 horsepower.
I'm bringing Uncle Rico my 12 and it makes 1,550.
And I'm bringing Scrat, which makes about 1,850 to the tire.
And the Junker, making 850 horsepower.
Yep, it sure was a B-hump.
So, the truck that I'm taking to the Desert Diesel Nationals is my Cummins Cart, which is a 6.7 Cummins that's sleeved down to 6.4 liters, diamond pistons, a single turbo nitrous, lightweight, pro street contender.
My truck is affectionately known as Uncle Rico. It's a 95 Dodge 4x4 ratty truck, not as ratty as the Junker, but it's four-wheel drive. 6.1 stroker, 12 valve, 12 millimeter P-pump, big turbos, a little bit of nitrous, not very reliable.
My truck is the utter disaster of Scrat. It is just a 6.7 common rail swapped, second gen, four-wheel drive, 48, GT55 with 480, just kind of a basic setup. Taken to a lot of dyno runs. It's done about 1,700, and I've decided I want to try to do my 5-second pass, run the 590 index, and see what I can do.
The fourth truck is my old Junker drag truck. It's been reincarnated. One of our employees, Nick, is racing it. He put it back together. What turbos are on there, Myer?
It's got a 62, 67, 351, one of our aggressors, on top of a aggressor 488.
So for this race in the Cummins Cart, I put together a brand new motor that's 6.4 liter, a sleeve down 6.7 block for this race. I also brought out the 16 millimeter pump that I haven't had for a couple years. I'm way excited about this, and it's rowdy. It might be a little bit too rowdy. It lopes awesome, sounds great. But the injectors that I have for this pump, I don't think are quite big enough, and it just never really worked perfectly. So I ended up putting a 13 mil pump on this truck, and it was actually working really, really well. I did some dynos, trying to get things dialed in for the competition, get about 17, 1,800 horsepower is kind of where I wanted to be. And in the end, something went wrong and it started running really rough. I thought perhaps I damaged the injectors, but it turned out to be much worse than that. When I took the top end apart for the injectors out, I noticed one of the bridges was broken. Not the bridge, excuse me, one of the rocker arms was broken on the bridge. So when I took that apart, I took the injectors out, and I did actually re-pop those, get those working really well, thinking that may have been the problem in addition to the rocker. But when I put the rocker back in, I noticed I could not set lash because the push rod dropped too far down, which means my mushroom is gone, my tappet was broken, so it became apparent I had a broken lifter. This is now one day before we're supposed to load up, like literally one day before we're loading up. I was pretty down, I was ready to throw in the towel, but Myer and Will came in and said, no, we're gonna do a cam swap and tappet swap in frame. I'm gonna try to hit a home run here, swing for the fences, and so that's what we did. Under the truck I go. So fun to do this under the truck with oil dripping on your face. I love this. Pan comes off, cam comes out, tappets come down. We're able to fish tappets back up using the wooden dowels to guide them from underneath the truck. Will's up there helped me receive them.
That was a lot of fun, actually. I was like, left, right, up, perfect.
It was so fun. I'm under the truck, oil dripping my face. Great time. Your definition of fun mine is different.
I mean, I was on top of the truck and I was looking down and I was like, man, if I wiggle this just right, I can make that big drop of oil fall on Todd. It's like the perfect scenario.
That's great. And so we got the lifters back up in there, put a new cam, and this cam was a little bit bigger. The cam before was like a 200, 220, and this was like a 210, 220. So not much different, but we want to try something new. Good job. They come over about midnight, and we roll it outside.
You're doing it, Peter. You're playing with us.
You're doing it.
So the next morning, I just can do like 1 or 2 quick dyno rolls, and we didn't even set the cameras because I thought this would be a quick pass, and it didn't work. So I have to pull the plug on my trip, and I'm sad about it, but in the end, it wasn't meant to be.
So after spending 48 hours trying to work on Todd's truck.
You guys were not working on my truck. I was there, and I had to do a little bit here and there.
So my truck is fairly dialed somewhat. I've been going to some of the tests and tunes in Vegas over the winter, so that way I could, I'm a newbie racer. I've been to an actual track 3 times now. Last time I went, everything worked pretty darn good, except I was the dum-dum that could not let off the button. My staging limiter button at the same time I let off the brake. So to fix that, I decided to put some line locks on there. So I smashed the brake, hit the button, and all I gotta do at the starting line, when that light turns green, let off the button, and it takes off.
I know how he's a rookie racer. That light turns green, I let off the button. What a moron.
I was gonna get to that.
Rookie.
Anyway, that was all I was gonna do. Wire that up. That was a simple job. Then the day before the event, I decided to service my trans, do a quick test hit in the parking lot. Everything worked great, and so then I load mine up.
I believe a fuel leak developed.
Oh.
You did a test hit in the parking lot.
Okay, easy there.
Long story short, he had a rail pressure sensor leak from the relocated rail pressure sensor location.
Yes. So I ended up having to put a copper washer in there and just snug it down, and that seemed to take care of it.
So copper will hold
Copper will hold
20,000 psi.
32,000 psi.
32,000 psi. Sorry, I was talking in P pump talk. We don't talk
You
greater
wish
numbers than
could make
20,000.
20,000 psi.
All right, 16,000 psi according to Bosch.
So you had your truck all dialed in. Rico is pretty much ready to go. Turbos are in, but you had a couple issues.
So one, Todd and Myer before the event decided to talk me into trying bigger turbos. So I spent
Easy
2
there.
days
First,
tried it.
you blew out your T4 gasket, which
All
was
right.
quite the
There's a reason.
So I was on the dyno and it hit 150 pounds of boost on spray and 200 pounds of drive pressure. Shortly thereafter, the high pressure turbo T4 manifold gasket blew out.
In spectacular fashion.
And so I tried different turbos. Didn't like how lazy the truck was. It was unraceable in my opinion. So I went back to a 472, got my truck on the dyno, making about 1,250 horsepower in fuel, about 1,500 on spray, and I feel like my truck was ready to go. Solid, didn't have any problems.
No
Started.
boost leaks or nothing. Like
It's rich, it's smoky, but it's just flat. What's wrong? Myers like, let's do a boost leak check. I'm like, too basic for me. He pops the hood and he's like, there's your problem. Long boot.
It went basically exactly like that.
So that boot did finally blow up. So Myer helped me change the boot. Anyway, so we did that. Truck's running great. Loaded off the dyno. Time to load up trucks.
So one of my coworkers, Wire Wheel Nick, got the bug for racing. He started messing with his Duramax a little bit. Well, he wanted to go a little bit further, so we offered him the junker. Basically, we said, if you can build this engine, build this trans, wire everything up, plumb everything up, I will help you. We'll do this. That way we can have this truck for testing, so we can do a bunch of testing with it, but he can go down the track with it. And so that's what he did. We ended up putting together just a very basic 12 valve. It's got a set of 62, 67 aggressor with a aggressor 488 below it. That's the junker.
And so those are the three trucks that go. So the Cummins Cart's out. So Uncle Rico, Scrat, and the junker.
The junker.
Head
Yep.
down to Phoenix.
Yep.
We are headed to Arizona. Hopefully not start this trip off with a bang.
So we arrived there Friday about 5 o'clock. The racing test and tune, and then they had 2 rounds of qualifying Friday. Started at 6 p.m. So we got all the trucks unloaded. Wire Wheel Nick got excited, went out there in the junker, and
Just like got in his truck, got it inspected, and went hit the lanes. We're just like, dude, never gone down the track
Good luck.
before. Good luck to you.
didn't even know how the Christmas tree works or nothing. He just figured it out.
Figured it out.
And he left with no boost because the tree dropped. He's like, oh, it's green, I gotta go. And he ran, 10 seconds an eighth or something? High ninths. It was embarrassingly slow. But a lot of people thought it was me because my old race truck. I'm like, wow, Will's rusty. He sucks.
Which, okay, for someone that's never gone down the track and never really driven that truck before, I thought he did freaking awesome.
So my first run was the second round of qualifying. So I get up there, I'm racing Rick Fleets, he's in that Chevelle, the Duramax, very fast car, and I proceed to go. Well, I forgot to turn my dang nitrous button. I turned the cover of the switch on, but I didn't have the switch on. So I'm spooling, and it was a little slow, and I kept hitting the nitrous button, it wasn't doing anything. So I sat there at the green light, trying to build lots of boost, trying to figure it out, and just left fuel only. And then I had a lazy 1-2 shift, or a little thing, and then I don't think I grabbed the shifter right, so I shifted to neutral instead of third. Then I thought the transfer case was in neutral, so middle of the track revving, trying to figure it out. And I rolled to like 9 or 10 seconds, something terribly slow.
He was making fun of Nick for a crappy first fast.
It's like, honestly, I think Nick did better. Just based off this alone, I feel like he did pretty good.
But it-
So then my first round, which was the second round of qualifying, I had gotten up in the lanes. I was ready to go. It sounded like it was idling a little funky, but I was like, it's a different tune than I normally run, like whatever, it's fine. So I got into the lanes and I hit the staging limiter, everything like worked good, it spooled, and it turned green. I let off the button and it just like, and just like stalled in the middle of the track. So I pull off to the side, I'm like, wonder what that was. I'm like, I just made a tune change. I'm sure it's my fault. Like, track inspector's like, oh, you're not leaking oil. I'm like, okay, cool. So I changed tune, fires right up, no problem. I'm like, nice. So just idle my way down the track, get back into the pits. I immediately open the laptop, check out what I just did. I'm like, yep, there's the problem. My pressure was about 1,000th of what it was supposed to be. The only tune that wasn't affected by that was tune 1. Not a problem. I'll just go down the track with 1,200 horse. So I did that, and I also skipped lockup, and so I did not have it in lockup the whole time, and I went to a 670 with a 101 in the 8th. Like, I should be knocking on the door for 5 seconds with good power and lockup. So I was actually, even though I didn't do that great, I was actually feeling really good.
So my second run Friday night, I hot lapped, came right back in. I lined up next to some truck in a lower class. I don't even know, didn't care. And I went out there, I had the nitrous on. I went out, cut another 155, 60 foot, shifted, did everything great. And then when I was midway down track, I hit the big nitrous jet because I wanted to see what it felt like. Hit it, all right, I could feel it. Nitrous working, feels pretty good. Let off, hit it a second time, and boom, it blew up. It popped. Lost all power. I saw some shrapnel come out from under the hood, and I thought, must have blown up a boot. That's what it sounded like. That was a 619 at 115.
I was like about to head off to the lanes again for my second run, and I hear like some kind of a Cummins coming down the track, and all of a sudden a big, and I'm like, that's Will. I like hopped in my truck and headed to the lanes.
So I went back to the pits. I noticed my grill was about falling off, and I was like, oh, that's odd. Popped the hood's all in pieces, and there's just a boot popped off. I thought I blew up the boot on this side because I saw a bunch of like shrapnel looking stuff, but what actually happened is this boot here blew off, and Myer tightened these clamps, but then he had me check them, and so it is my fault. But, thank goodness he had me check them, otherwise I would have called sabotage. This blew off with so much force it dented the pipe here. This is steel pipe, it dented on the aluminum radiator shroud, believe it or not. And I noticed my lift pump belt on my Predator was missing too. So that was kind of the first night.
So far, Friday night, really looking solid Friday night.
Looking solid Friday night, yeah. 670,
doing good.
Leave it on green, you're blowing crap up.
So like any good racer, I decided to put my truck back together Friday night because it's already late.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't want to have to come in Saturday and be stressed to get my truck ready. So I proceeded to put the boot back on. Yeah, and then I said the next morning I needed some supplies to fix the hood. I'm making Mike Finnegan and every roadkill show fan happy. I'm using zip ties to patch this 2-piece fiberglass hood into a 1-piece hood. So fix the hood. I also got a belt on because the belt was nowhere to be found, but luckily Wire Wheel Nick had a spare belt.
So Nick came in clutch.
Good
thing had him there, my gosh. You got your truck back together, you got your tune fixed, so now you're on Saturday morning qualifying.
Saturday morning, so we need to qualify because there's 7 people in mine and Myers class. The number 1 qualifier is getting a bye. So we're both gunning for a 590 and we line up and we had a little fun banter over who was going to win the first race.
Mm-hmm. We were both lined up in qualifying and I was expecting him to go first and me go next, and then it's like, oh, it's just the both of us. I'm like, sweet.
Here we go.
I was rocking solo, trying to do all my stuff. I'm like, oh, this is going to go well. My first race against Will, I'm going to inevitably forget something and I'm going to get gouged.
But got my nitrous line hooked up. We lined up. The tree dropped. Meyer beat me off the starting line. He treed me a little bit. And
both of us left pretty miserably, just I did less miserably.
All I know is I felt like we both got off the line very similarly, and I proceeded to watch that 6.7 Cummins drive out of my life. And I was like, what the heck? So I grabbed my spool jet, which is the little tiny jet, to see if it could help me, run down Myer a little bit. And I grabbed the spool jet, and it's just like, I didn't even hardly feel a difference. I was like, that's weird. And then I hit it again, and then right after that, my truck just laid over. I was like, oh, that stupid Predator belt must have popped off again. I drove back. Myer got a 592, and I'm like, holy crap, he's right on the index.
How was your pass? How did it
So for me, I wasn't sure I was in full wheel, so I'm just like lining up. I'm like hoping it's gonna work. I let off the button. I feel the G's. I'm like, okay, that's full wheel. I don't have a tack, so I'm shifting purely off of sound, and I'm like, heck yeah, that's full wheel. Oh wait, crap, gotta go. Then I'm like, that was lockup. I did good this time. Do it again. Then I was like, I get into third. I kind of wrap out third a little bit. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. I think that'll be fine. I look up at the sign. It says 592, and I'm like,
is that me? Did I just do that? Heck yes. I've never gone down the track with that little power. I turned it down because I was like, this should be fine.
You left
That was
smooth.
cool.
I see the video. I mean, it's a nice smooth lead.
It just went. I was so excited.
First one at our shop in the fives,
First one.
which is crazy. As long as we've been racing, none of us have been in fives.
We just really suck. Josh made it clear that he would actually beat us to the fives. As a PDD employee, I made it clear to him that he was a former PDD employee at that time, so I still get it.
So you get back to the pits. What happened to your truck?
So get back to the pits, it's running rough, and I think my belt is off, and there's all these people in the way, and I finally get back, and I can smell oil a little bit, and didn't think much of that, and I get in my spot, shut it off, and I pop out, and I look at the belt, and the Predator belt is still in place. I'm like, And as I walk back, I see there's a trail of oil leading to my truck, and then on the back of the diaper, there's a whole solid line of oil, and I'm like, So I walk up and there's a hole in number 6. There's a triangle hole about this big right in the side of the block. So that's why it's running rough. It's run on 5 cylinders and it drove itself back to the pits. So that ended my event. I had a hole in the side of my block. So I just basically started pestering Myer and Wire Wheel Nick, trying to give them advice that they didn't want. Unsolicited advice on how to race and win.
And how did Wire Wheel Nick do?
He did good. He was in the 670 index. After he's gone down the track a couple times, we're like, oh, dude, you need way more launch boost than that. But he was running like 7.0s, so still a little ways from his index, but I mean, it's enough to have fun. Then the first round in eliminations, he did get booted. Very
ran
good.
a 7.2 versus like I ran a 7.0. And
Yeah, he did good
He's
though.
in the mix. That truck can definitely compete at that level. Just gotta get some practice.
we might give him a little more power with that 8th mile. It comes up quick. You need
It
a lot of
does.
power.
So he's out first round. You're out in qualifying. You're the one.
I got a bye.
What'd you do for your buy run though?
Broke beams and just idled down the track. So on the way back, it kind of felt like the converter was dragging a little bit at idle. Generally, converter drag is caused by a clogged filter. You don't have the fluid flow through the converter to keep it unlocked. So we decided to drop the pan, check the filter. Sure enough, there's some debris in there. It only has 2 passes on it to somehow hurt that converter. So we decided to change the filter, change the fluid. So I decided to roll up on the dyno just to see if I could get the W in that big compound class. The truck hit 4,800 RPM. The dyno only hit 4,200 RPM. So definitely had some good slip in there. Otherwise, it felt good.
How'd you do in the dyno? Did you win?
I entered the dyno. Saying that I won is redundant. So I went back to the pits and I'm like, I gotta save the converter. We only had 2 rounds left of eliminations. The first round, I was racing a gray 2-wheel drive truck who had been having issues with launching and whatnot. The best pass up to the day was a 670. So I'm like, okay, I can outpower this guy. I'm like, I already know I can do a 670 in tune 1 with no lockup. So I lined up and left on green. I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm gonna leave on yellow, leave on yellow, leave on yellow. Yellow happened. I'm like, am I sure though? So I was like, I wouldn't leave on green, but let off the button, did some shifting. Will specifically told me not to line up in the tire tracks. Well, Will told me a lot of things, so anyway, ended up doing this pretty gnarly 4-wheel drive drift over to the side. Anyway, chased the guy down. I'm pretty confident he thought he won. And so he let out early, and then I just kind of zoomed past him. So that was kind of like sorry for him, like, but it was cool for me. But ended up doing that. Checked the data logs. We got up to like 5,800 RPM because that is a concern. Like I short shifted third really fast to try to keep the RPMs down through that unlocked converter. Well, I hit 5,800 RPM, which isn't a lot, but we somehow had some kind of a valve train failure, and so not only was the converter still definitely not feeling it, but some kind of a valve train issue. That's where I left it. I didn't even run through the finals.
That's pretty
Cylinders
cool.
that look
First race, number 2 qualifier, makes it to the finals. Claims 5,800 RPM is not that high, which it is.
People on YouTube are gonna want to know, why do you always break cams and tappets? Is this just nobody tells about it, or is there something specific about you that makes cams and things always break?
I like high RPM. It's fun.
Torque is what I thought killed things, but apparently RPM does.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's a pretty dang successful first event, honestly. That's pretty dang cool.
I had really 3 goals. I wanted to win the dyno with the tow truck, I wanted to win the dyno with the Scrat, and I wanted to run my gosh dang 5-second pass. And I did those.
What about beat Will at the tree?
That was a side quest.
So if you guys didn't know, race trucks are fun. The memories are fun. At the time, the suck is real. Like
Day before, under me laying on that floor and oil drip my face, pushing tappets, that sucked. You went on your block.
I sucked. I had to
mean,
put
I'm-
some pins in a Deutsch connector. It was
Deutsch connector guy.
really rough.
Like,
The prep for this race was
I'm
beautiful.
3 race events into my truck, and I'm down 2 blocks now in 3 race events.
I think you have successfully and thoroughly found the limit of the 6BT block.
I do not think a storm block is stronger than an early 12-valve block. Just in case you're wondering, I had to test the theory.
Now we know.
It's not stronger.
And the Common Rail is right now winning the race. It's as embarrassing as it is. I gotta say
It is the only one that had to get winched onto the trailer.
Oh.
So that's...
Wait, we totally forgot to talk about that little side note. My 12-valve drove itself back to the pits broken. Actually, yours drove back broken too.
It did.
With the valves, but mine loaded itself on the trailer, and Myer was worried about dropping a valve because there happened to be a couple valves with just valve springs and no retainers. And so he's like, I probably shouldn't start this and push my luck because my block is not windowed. But me, being the prideful person I am, I'm like, my 12-valve is going to load itself. And it did. I didn't even check the oil. Marked its territory the whole way. Who knows how much oil's in it? But you know what? It's still leaking, so that means it still has it.
Oh my gosh.
Is this stupid thing still on? Yep.